Hey folks, this is Mike again. Welcome to this little mixing tutorial that I wanted to show you. I've talked with my good friend Adam Rhodes from ARdrummer. If you haven't seen his channel, go check him out. Adam is a nice guy, a fantastic drummer. And the cool thing about Adam is that he records his drumming with just one single microphone. I think he uses a Zoom H4 camera, which has an integrated stereo microphone, but it's just one. And Adam receives some really great sound with this one microphone. So you really don't need to spend several $100s for microphones all over drum kit. Adam proves that just a good microphone from a good camera can sometimes be enough. So before we start, and when I want to show you that I even wanted to enhance the drums from Adam just by using some basic moves, I want to show you what Adam sent me. He was kind enough to record a little basic metal rock groove for me that I can work on. So this is the track that Adam sent me. I will just... So if you know M's channel, you probably have seen him doing this. As I said, M is a great drummer, has a really, really tight feel. But now I want to show you what I did after the complete mixing with Adam's track. So quite a difference, isn't it? Well, before I show you what I did in general, let me say that this is kind of a two-step approach. First of all, because as you might have heard and recognized, I've used some drum sample software to replace Adam's drums. But if you haven't access to samples, I will show you in a first step what you can do with every DAW, whether if you're using GarageBand or in my case Reaper or Pro Tools or Studio One. Those moves will probably work for all of you. So the first thing, I will just solo the drum track from Adam. The first thing that I've noticed is that the hi-hat is quite prominent, pretty much too prominent. It really depends on how you set up your microphone and whether it captures which kind of frequency. And this Zoom H4 microphone, I don't know, Adam, where you put that, if it's put right on the left side or behind you, but it really captures especially the hi-hat, and it's dominating the whole drum track. So the first thing I wanted to do is get rid of that hi-hat, so even out all the drums. So I've picked just a common equalizer. This is from Isotope. This is Neutron, one of the latest plugins they released, but you can do this with kind of every single equalizer. You see here, what I did is just removing frequencies from the low end, getting rid of that really, really subby, muddy frequencies up to the high end. The goal was, as I said, to even out the drum track and to still have it sound natural as possible. Especially I wanted to get control of the hi-hat. So let me first start with that equalizer. I will play the back and then bring in the equalizer so you can see what we did here. So you immediately notice that the track was getting quieter, of course, because I'm just removing frequencies, and this will summing up to 2 or 3 dB in total. Which, but you can adjust the levels, of course, with this in and faders or with the faders on the track as well. So all those frequency, I will show them in singular when I play the track. What I removed here. And especially that move, so like you heard, just some nasty boomy frequencies from the snare, from the tom, from the boom. This is like occurring in every single room, no matter in which room you will record. Especially drums and with a room microphone, they always have kind of boxy and nasty frequencies that you want to get rid of. But the main move I did here was this so-called high shelf, where you can just like remove or increase the complete area above that point, sorry. So usually the hi-hat is occurring in that area between 5000 to 7000 hertz or 5k to 7k. So I just let me show you what I did here. I will just put it back in and search again until I get like that hi-hat under control. So you don't want to kill this like this. This is way too much. So like you really have to find the spot where like it still sounds natural, but you get kind of control of that hi-hat. The goal here was, as I said, to get it like equally and normal as possible, because then afterwards I just like processed it as if it were like normal overheads. So after that move, after I even that out, I throw in another equalizer. You don't have like to remember all those settings, because I just wanted to give again more control over natural balance. So this was kind of just like a correction move. I've additionally added some transient shaper, like tightening up that kick drum a little bit, removing some sustain in that upper area here. Okay, we can show you this as well. So I'll just solo just the hi-hat information here with that S button. And the transient shaper is a kind of good tool. There are enough free tools out there. So especially when you're mixing drum, transient shaper is always a good plugin to choose. What I did here is just remove some of the sustain to even more tighten up that upper area. So let's hear what I did here. Same for the low end. I increased the attack and removed some sustain to give it like more of a tight and punchy effect. And finally some exciter. This is like adding just some harmonics from a tape saturation, some warmth, again on all those different bands, low end, the high end, the mid range. Just play along with the settings. Really depends on your taste. So I give a quick final A/B after those three moves. So now I had the feeling that it was quite like natural overhead microphone. And now I moved on to some common processing that I would do usually when I just have a pair of overheads. Throwing in some parallel processing. The move here, you may have seen me doing this before. I've just sent a whole copy of that processed drum track to this parallel track. I've picked a compressor to really like smack down the audio. So let's have a listen in solo. So really way too much compressed, but the goal here is not to use this too loud, to just like blend it into taste, to really fatten up those drum tracks. So what you usually want to do is like listen to your drums, create that parallel processing, bring down the fader, and then like slowly blend it in until you get the feeling that the enhancement is happening. So let's have a listen. Too much. with every parallel move, it's always a good like start if just to like bring down the fader completely, then blend it in until the point that you feel it's too much, and then like drag it back some dB so that you more feel it than really hear it. The same with the reverb. Reverb is always a good choice on drums to give it more depth and more width. So I've sent another copy, you see here the reverb, the processed one, to this channel. Same here, I picked some basic EQ. Basic tip when putting up a reverb is to get rid of the really high information and the low information, because those two frequency areas can sound harsh and nasty if you send them to a reverb plugin to create some room sound. Doesn't really matter which reverb you use. Again, the most DAWs nowadays has a built-in reverb plugin. Just play with the settings. I've used this one because I'm a subscriber of Slate Digital's Everything bundle, so this is quite great for me. And after the reverb, what I usually do as well is just to compress it, because I treat it like it was a common drum room, like a bigger drum room. So same approach as for the parallel compression. First we listen to it in solo, and then we blend it into the original track. In context with the song. You will probably never get one single microphone from a Zoom H4 to sound like it was a professional recording, but as you can hear, you can at least improve it quite a bit. So, but you may now ask, well, this doesn't sound like the track you've played in the beginning, the final mix. Well, of course, I used some drum replacement software and used some samples. When using an overhead microphone, this is quite of a tricky approach because usually you've put in any drum replacement software. In this case, I use Steven Slate Trigger 2. You use this on a single microphone. So if you have a kick microphone, a snare microphone, a tom microphone, you get rid of some of the bleeding from the other instruments, but then you have kind of a clean signal that you can work on. But in this case, Adam has just some one single microphone, so it was kind of work for me, because to isolate all those individual drums. So when I just throw in a drum replacement software like Trigger 2 on the whole track, and no matter what I do, the software will like detect every single hit from, in this case, Adam, whether he's playing the hi-hat or the snare or the kick drum, and we will place, and this is quite impossible to handle. So what I wanted to do, or what I had to do, is just to isolate, in this case, the trigger, to find a frequency where only the kick drum really is going on. This is kind of hard because there's no, especially drums have a full frequency spectrum from 0 to 20K. So you really find a frequency where just the frequency is happening. I found out in this case, this was kind of 144, 145. So let's have a listen to show you what I mean. And you don't have to be afraid about how it sounds, because you just want, you won't use that sound anyway. You just want to find a frequency to trigger the software so that you can replace this signal with the samples. So this is the frequency that I found. I even enhanced it using the Transient shaper to really like bring out the attack of that single frequency. And afterwards, I throw in trigger 2 from Stephen Slade. You can use this plugin as well. And what you then can do is browse through the preset. It comes along with, of course, all the Stephen Slade pack. But for the sake of this video, I will show you now what you can do here. I picked some samples from the Ben Phillips pack from I Want That Sound. Really great guys, really great samples. So you go into the kick samples, like choose one that you think is good. Let's try this one. And when I now play back the track, you will hear that the signal that I just isolated will trigger that single sample. And of course you can go overboard. So I just used this sample. Let's use that Every Day, I think is quite good as well. So now you have 2 different kick samples. Okay, this is fine. Maybe some clicky as well. This is good. This is too loud, of course. So let's have a listen with the kick drum. So after that, when you use, of course, a sample pack, you can like treat and EQ and compress them as if it was just a common sample. So this is what I did with every single signal. Especially toms were quite tricky, to be honest, because and that first fill that Adam played, this is occurring here. You see, I really had to work like to isolate every single hit to ensure that just that the toms were triggered that Adam played in his video. So this was kind of a work. Let's go through this. The snare and kick is always the most obvious. Same approach here. I've isolated the frequency that I want to bring out. Added some transient shaper to really like enhance it. Maybe we can have a listen how this sounds. Quite weird, of course. So again, using trigger. For some reason he deleted the settings I used, so maybe like can build it from scratch, go to the snares. I think I love the Crack Beauty, which is a great name, by the way, for a snare drum. So this is just a dry sample, and then we'll bring in the room microphones for that as well. And I think I had the fat one here, the low leady. Yeah. The dry sample and the room. And now let's have a listen how that sounds. Let's start from the beginning. In context with the song. And the same here for the snare as what I did with the kick drum. Now I have like a clean snare signal. I just then picked in some basic equalization and compression moves, and finally, because the snare always needs some reverb, additional reverb as well, I throw in another reverb plugin to really like fatten the snare up. So let's have a listen after the EQ move and the reverb plugin. And now again together with the song. And then finally, of course, after I replaced the most samples here from the kick, snare, and the toms, I will, of course, deactivate this processing, because now I have a clean kick, snare, and tom microphone. And now I can treat the drums in combination with those single microphones as if it was a common recorded drum set with a pair of overheads and some direct mics. So I will just mute that out and created a drum bus where all those signals are summed up, and did some final processing to the whole drum track. Let's have a quick listen before and after. And finally, of course, because finishing a mix always with kind of a mastering plugin, though mastering is not about just like enhancing or increasing the loudness, but in this case, for the sake of this video, this is of course no professional mixing process, just another maximizer for the final track, including the drumless track and Adam's playing. So again, last before and after. And now we mute this up and just let's have a listen again where we started. And again, the final mix. Finally, I want to say this is just a quick and dirty like tutorial. Of course, this is no in-depth. I still had a lot of work to do if I would really get this done. You may have heard that the snare sometimes is kind of weird places because I have some latency issues going on because my laptop is not the best, obviously. So usually you want to really go like in-depth, like checking out. I can show you maybe here. Like really go into depth, you really like adjusting every single hit. You can like moving them slightly if you have the feeling that it's not in line with the original track, like processing them, like equal loud them at every step. So this is quite a lot of work to do. For the sake of this video, just wanted to show you just the before and after, where we started with Adam's decent drum track and decent recording, but what you can do just like by using some basic EQ moves or just like replacing some with some samples. My goal is always, like you have seen in all my videos, not to overdo this. I never want to like achieve that over the top, in your face, too loud drum sound. I always like to mix the drums that they fit in context to a song. Hope you find this one helpful. If you have any questions, leave a comment below, give me a like or a dislike. Appreciate every of your reaction. And thanks, Adam, again for your video. Great drummer, and was fun to work with you. So see you next time, guys. Bye bye.